I want you to imagine this. You've done it. You got the samples, you've done the photo shoot, you poured your heart into the website. You finally hit publish. People love your pieces, the compliments are rolling in, and orders start coming through. But then a few months later, when you sit down to look at your numbers, something feels off. You're busy, you're selling, you're exhausted. And yet, there's hardly any money left. You're working so hard, but your bank account doesn't reflect it. If that hits a nerve, I want you to know you're not bad with money. You're not just a creative. Running a business takes a lot of effort. You were probably never taught how to run the business with proper pricing properly. I am Bhavna Rishi, founder of Build the Dream brand, and over 20 years I've been helping founders, artists, and fashion startups design, launch, and scale brands from museums like V&A and first-time founders who started with nothing but an idea and a sketch or an artwork. And in this episode of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly of Building the Dream brand, I want to walk you through how to price your products for profit, because getting this wrong is one of the fastest way to quietly kill your brand. Let's make sure that doesn't happen to you. So here is the true cost of making a product. Let's start with something simple that most people get wrong. When I ask founders, what does it cost you to make this product? They'll often say it's £25 per piece. But when I dig deeper, the £25 is usually just the unit cost from the manufacturer, maybe the label and the packaging, or sometimes shipping. But here's what's missing: pattern cutting, tech pack cost, sample cost, shipping the samples, import duties, packaging materials, photo shoot, website and platform fees, subscription fees, transaction fees from various payment providers, and your time. You don't need to overcomplicate it, but you do need a clear picture. A factory charged me £25, so I'll sell it for £50. That's not pricing, that is guessing. Ask yourself, if I add everything it took to get this product ready to sell, what does it really cost me? Once you know that, you can start to build prices that actually supports your business. Now let's break down the essential numbers. The cost price is what it actually costs you to make one unit from your manufacturing place. Wholesale price is what you would charge a retailer or a stockist if they buy from you. A retail price is what your customer pays on your website or in your own store. A simplified way to think about this is your wholesale price should cover your costs and give you enough margin to operate. Your retail price should be around double or sometimes 3 times the wholesale price. This is often referred as a keystone pricing in fashion. For example, let's say your true cost was £30. Your wholesale might be £60 and your retail might be around £120 or £160. Those numbers are just examples. They'll vary, they will vary based on your market, your positioning. If you price your products too low at retail, you can never realistically wholesale later because there's no room for the retailer's margin. If you only ever think about today, you might accidentally block your brand's futures opportunities. Markups are a big part of pricing. What kind of markups actually work? There is no single magic formula, but there's a common pattern in fashion. The cost price is usually multiplied by 2 or 2.5 to get the wholesale, and the wholesale price is multiplied by 2 to get retail. These are guidelines, not rules. Your numbers will depend on your product category, your target market, your brand positioning, your costs. And some brands will have higher margins because they have negotiated lower production costs or they are in a luxury segment. Others will sit a little bit lower. The point is not to hit a perfect formula, but the point is to cover your cost, pay yourself, and leave room for growth. If you're consistently underpricing because you're scared people won't buy, what you're really doing is asking your future self to pay the bill. Trying to sell at a price as cheap as possible is a huge trap. If your strategy is, I'll be cheaper than brand X, so people will choose me, you're putting yourself in a race to the bottom. There will always be someone who can produce at a larger scale in cheaper conditions with tighter margins than you. You cannot win that game, and you don't want to. Your goal is to position your brand so that customers think this is worth it. This feels like me. I trust this quality and the story. People don't just pay for fabric and stitching, they pay for your story, your design, your fit, your experience, your values. And if you underprice just to be liked, you teach people that your work is of low value and it's hard to climb back up from there. How do you position your brand so people are happy to pay the price? If you're not competing on price, what are you competing on? You're competing on clarity, resonance, trust, and experience. Can your customer quickly understand who you are and what makes you different? A brand feels like it's created for them. Does your visual messaging product is of high quality and aligned with them? From browsing to unboxing, does it feel considered and consistent? When your brand identity is strong and your product quality matches your promise, your pricing feels fair even if you're not the cheapest. This is why identity and pricing are linked. If your brand feels confused, DIY or inconsistent or higher prices will feel uncomfortable for you and your customer. If your brand feels clear, aligned, and intentional, your prices feel like a natural reflection of that. Now, there is a psychology of pricing too, and how to use it ethically. Small tweaks you may have seen while shopping that has probably influenced your own way that you perceive your pricing, like rounding versus doing 0.99 prices, or price anchoring, showing a higher price product beside a lower one, or creating clear tiers so the customer understand where each offer sits and go for the offer because it makes the most sense to them to invest in. Use psychology to highlight value, not to manipulate. For example, grouping products into starter or signature or limited collections can help people self select based on their budget and needs because you're saying it's the only time I'm going to do these 5 pieces costing £200 each for next 3 months. People will think, oh, I am getting something unique, something signature, something limited for a limited period of time, so can justify paying £200. You don't have to trick anyone. You just have to make it easy for them to see and help them understand why this costs what it costs, and they can feel good about paying for that. Now, let's talk about discounts because it happens with all the bigger brands and small brands sometimes get stuck because you're not able to discount your items. I'm going to talk about why it's not evil, but it's a strategy. It can destroy your margins and your brand perception, but done properly, it can also elevate and get you the exposure that you need. Ask yourself, am I discounting because I genuinely have a strategy or I feel panic and I just want quick sales? Discounts can make sense if you have the products that arrived but didn't quite meet the quality standards. So you can do that just for your limited amount of loyal customers. You could also say, I am clearing end of stock. I've got these 60 pieces to clear. And that way you can actually have a strategy to make it work for your brand. Where it does hurt is when you train your audience to think this particular piece of product will come on sale anyway, and you're never selling at that full price. You're expected not to hold that retail price ever because as soon as it comes in within a few months, you panic and say, oh, I need sales and put that discount on. So you're training your audience to only buy when it's discounted. If you want to reward your audience, consider adding values like bundles or free shipping over a certain amount, and maybe free gifts every time they buy over, say, £60 or £150 worth of stuff. Creating exclusivity rather than slashing prices is the way forward. Now, a lot of times when the small businesses start, they are looking to either wholesale or D2C selling. And how does the pricing work when you're selling direct to consumer or if you're selling it to another store? Ask if a retailer takes 50 to 60% of the retail price as a margin. Can I still make money? What are their terms? Does your current cost structure support wholesale? If not, you may need to adjust your product sourcing, pricing, or focus on direct to consumer only. What you don't want is selling at a price on your website, then being forced to raise prices significantly once you start wholesaling. Early on, customers confused or alienated. So design your pricing with future self in mind so that you can do the wholesale comfortably with better margins. So I'll leave you with a quick example of profitable pricing here. Imagine your true cost per product is 30. So you decide to wholesale it for 60 and your retail price is at 120. If you sell D2C at £120, you're covering your £30, you're covering some of your overheads and paying yourself, and you've got margin to reinvest. If later a retailer wants to buy from you at £60 and sell at £120, it still works. You're not stuck. This is the difference between hoping a price works and designing a price that supports you now and later. As you sit with all of this information, ask yourself, have you really calculated your true cost? Are you underpricing out of fear that no one will buy? Or are you scared to charge what you know works and what it is worth? And if your answers are uncomfortable, that's okay. Money can be emotional, especially when it's tied to your creativity and identity. But your brand cannot survive on compliments. It needs cash flow, it needs pricing that supports you, not just suppliers and platforms. This is the kind of work I support founders with inside the Build a Dream brand, breaking down your real costs, designing pricing that makes sense for your market and for your goals, helping you feel confident saying, this is my price without shrinking or apologizing. If you like support, you'll find a link in the show notes where you can download a free price for profit worksheet to input your numbers and see where you really stand. Or book a call with me so we can look at the pricing together and make sure your brand is also a sustainable business. You deserve to be paid for the value you create. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly of Building the Brand. In the next episode, we'll dive into launching your brand, what no one tells you. Until then, I want you to remember this: raising your prices to reflect your true value isn't greedy. It's what allows your brand and you to keep going and keep building.